Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Proverbs 22:6, the Bible. What's up, guys? This is another edition of Quotes with Beckham. This week, we're going to be talking about a Bible quote that I really like that I wanted to talk about. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I'm entering into my late 20s and I'm getting to that point where I'm thinking about children, thinking about having a family, and that I've heard this quote mentioned here and there pretty much all over time my entire life. If you guys don't know, I actually grew up Baptist Christian in the South. And so for me, the Bible it's always been a part of my life, but this quote in particular starts to mean more and more as I've been an adult since I was 18, obviously legally speaking, but as I come to wanting to have my own children, it just starts to mean that much more. And I think a lot of the Bible is that way, and a lot of not just the Bible but old teachings that are that way. The older you get and the more life you live, the more these things that seem so meaningless, pointless, like kind of like out of reach when we were kids, start to really just come into full focus and really hit home for us, and give a lot of insight into what we're going through now, but what people have gone through in the past. And so, as the saying goes, nothing new under the sun. And also, as the saying goes, at least back in the South, I don't know what they say anywhere else, but there's always a phrase of keep living. If you don't know, keep living. You ain't seen it before, keep living. It's gonna happen eventually for you. So with that being said, I think the quote is pretty straightforward, to be honest. But I just wanted to break it down a little bit. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. It all starts in the home. When we look at these phenomena and how children come out, it's always an interesting discussion of how much of a child's results throughout their life is the child's own doing and how much of it is because of the parents. It's an interesting distinction. I think there's a fine line between those two things, because I do think it's possible that you will have a child who grew up in a certain environment with a certain group of parents, and then he or she is almost the complete opposite of how they were raised. But I think more often than not, people or tend to be products of their environment. And with that being said, the habits and the values that you instill within a child, especially in their very formative years, we're talking like, and I'm by no means am I a child expert, but I think you're talking like from birth up to like 8 years old. What you put into that child and the experiences that child has and what they see you do on a day-to-day basis really sets the foundation for who they're going to be as a person. And it's not shocking that there's not going to be so different than what their parents are and who their parents came to be as people. It's just a part of human development is a sense of mimicry and learning, but also learning by example. And saying words is one thing, but seeing actions and repeating those actions on a consistent basis, that really sets the foundation for who we are as people. For example, right? I just cooked soup this past Monday, right? And I've been cooking since I was a kid. My mother, she would go to work, right, and she would have to work sometimes overtime, long hours to make sure me and my siblings were adequately taken care of. But what that meant for me, because I was the oldest, was that I would have moments where I told myself, well, how am I gonna do this? And what that means is me and my siblings would get home from school. I mean, we all got homework, we all got assignments, and then my mother had to come home. She would have to not only just decompress from work, but check our homework and get us ready for the next day. Make sure this and that is taken care of around the house. Make sure and so we had to make sure again we didn't make life even more difficult than it already was. And that means we did each one of us doing our part, and within that, me doing my part as the oldest sibling. And so I quickly learned the value of responsibility of stepping up and making sure that my sister's homework was done, um, making, and then eventually over time learning how to cook. And I learned that through watching my mother cook in the kitchen. And like I said, like, it wasn't words, it wasn't, it was actions. It was me going in the kitchen and just helping my mother wash dishes, watching her cook, watching how she seasons this, watching how she preps that, watching how she cleans this, watching how she does that, over and over and over again. And to this day, I still carry those same habits with me. I still clean in a manner, I still cook in a manner that was passed down to me by my parents, by my mother in particular. And that's something that's just never going to leave me. It's part of who I am as a human being, as a person. And I'm grateful for that in a sense, though. Like, it taught me the value of responsibility, and, the value of self-care, which ultimately leads to a form of self-preservation. So with that being said, it all starts in the home. The values and the habits that you display and instill into your child really set the foundation for who he or she is going to be as a person, as I've already stated. And I find myself concerned to a degree, and I use that word because when I look at all the temptation and all the pitfalls that are placed before us growing up, I run these thought experiments in my head, or how am I going to manage this, or how am I going to do that, and just to make sure that my children have the best possibility to succeed. And I go back and forth, and I know I won't be alone. I have my then wife with me, but it's just something that I think about quite often, and it's becoming much more difficult over time as you get into the advent of social media and the pitfalls that has, or AI, and how this seems to be disrupting kids' learning, or just all these different things that are, I say all these different things, these very specific things that I just mentioned, that honestly was most people throughout human history didn't have to deal with. So we're in rare territory at this moment. It seems as though we're having this watershed moment. And although our circumstances have changed drastically, our software and our hardware were pretty much the same as it's always been throughout since time immemorial. And so we have to find ways of adapting. We have to find ways of managing the circumstances that are given to us and controlling what we can control as we, go on this journey of parenthood and trying to raise the next generation as effectively as we can. And I wanted to bring that back to the Bible because in all this uncertainty, human nature is still a constant, and the Bible just has a lot of wisdom. I understand that everyone listening to this might not be religious per se, but I have tremendous respect for it, even though I might not be the most religious person myself. I think it contains a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge about who we are as people, and has what I consider objective truths that we can all learn from and hold dear to us and give us direction and when we feel uncertain about our circumstances. And so I think I just leave it there. I don't think it's enough said. I think it's enough said. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, whether you agree, whether you disagree. If you have a favorite quote from the Bible, what is it? Let me know down in the comments. I had a couple of Bible quotes that I'm gonna do, so really excited to share those with you guys. So we'll take it one day at a time, one video at a time, as you were. And yeah, excited to hear what you guys think. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. One more thing. I know that last week was brutal not brutal, but like really busy for me. So I'm catching up on getting content out to you guys. So bear with me for that. I'm gonna put like a community post from here on out so I just don't leave you guys hanging in the dark or anything. And so I gotta do a better job at that. But I'm gonna be dropping two audio stories this week. So I'm excited about that. And just let me know what you guys think. I guess YouTube's gonna recommend another video to you at the end of this one, and so you can click on the screen for that one. And until next time, guys. See ya.